everybody. Welcome to Bingo. I have a guest. He's running a little bit late. David Randall is going to be here shortly, but I guess it leaves it up to me to go ahead and announce the big surprise. Does anybody have any guesses before we start? I'm just really curious. Any guesses what this big surprise and big announcement could be? I'll give you guys a second. And thanks for joining us Friday Bingo. I don't know about you guys, but we have already been back to school. So is everybody else. So what's your guesses, everybody? What do you think the big surprise is? There's Mr. Randall. We're letting them guess, Mr. Randall, what the big surprise might be.
I'm sorry?
We're letting them guess what the big surprise might be.
We're letting them guess. Yes, I asked Sandy earlier, what happens if your guest doesn't show up?
I know. I said, now I know why you asked me that.
I was on the way home. I got stuck behind a train, and it was just one thing after another. And it's 106 degrees outside here. And it was
I know it is hot. Well, we were
but I'm here.
We were laughing earlier because of getting behind school buses went back to school.
Oh yes.
So
that was probably a little bit of it. Yeah.
So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, David and I are both on the events committee. I believe that you will find out on Monday your teams for the Wiki Games. I think that's it.
I believe so. Yeah, that was my understanding.
Nobody has any idea. Okay. I made a little quick, very short video to kind of lead up to this. So let me see if I can cue it if you guys are ready for the big announcement. This is pretty big, and I don't know of any other big in scale announcement that I've heard of since I've been on WikiTree. So let's see what you guys think. And there you have it. So as if David is not busy enough with the sports notables, Disney, U.S. governors, David is bringing WikiTree completely global. That globe in the hand, every country will be on WikiTree next week, right?
No, not next week. next year. We are planning this for. This is a work in progress. We're planning this for January 1st. But we're bringing it up now because if anybody's interested in working on the development, drop me a note, and we've got plenty of room for people to help out. So shall I just go right into explaining what this is?
Yes, please.
So the global project, we have a global project right now, but the global project right now is basically a catch-all for all the projects that don't fit under another umbrella. So we're kind of shifting at the new global project. So this is kind of unrelated to that. So don't get confused between the two. The new global project is a takeoff from our 15 Nations tour. We've been trying to figure out what we want to do next year. The 15 Nations tour is, for those that don't know, basically every 3 weeks we visit another country. We focus on 15 notables and try to get them connected and build up their profiles. And that's been a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work. And I don't think I could do a full another year, which is what people have asked, is if we can do a second year. It takes a lot of time. I thoroughly enjoy it, but it takes a lot of time. It also leaves out a lot of countries because we have, there's approximately 197, I think, countries officially designated in the world. That's according to the United Nations. There's a few that are controversial that may or may not be countries, depending on how you define them. But we're looking at about 197. We have approximately 24 projects representing individual countries. That leaves a lot of countries, leaves out a lot of countries. That's 170 something countries that don't have projects. So what we are going to do is create a global project, and there will be a link to every country in the world. If people are interested in creating an actual, well, let me say this too. This is a little different than a regular project because it's not going to be a project focused on activity as much as kind of a jumping off page for 197 other projects. And those projects will only be as active as the membership chooses to make them. So I will not be on creating activities for all 197 projects or countries. But if somebody is interested in creating a project for a more obscure country that doesn't already have a project committed to it, you'll contact me and we'll get you set up, and you can be a one-person team, or if you can find people to join you, you can get more people on. But in the meantime, each page is going to have a thorough um, stationary page that is going to tell you a little bit about its history, about its demographics, its religions, its languages. It'll have links to other sites that have information. If Ancestry, Family Search have information. We are trying to find the national archives and national libraries for every country and giving you links. So far, pretty much every country I've researched has had a national archives with information online. We will have a list of some notables, usually not too many, but maybe 5 to 10 famous people that you can link to and see some of their profiles.
So think
So
of
it'll
this
have a
as a
lot of
really
information.
enhanced space page, right? Not
It'll
quite
be
a
what?
full, not quite a full project page or project, but a really super enhanced space page.
Yeah,
All right.
exactly. Um, and part of this is also we're trying to expand to a more global presence across the
Mhm.
world. And if you're from a country like, you look at some of the countries been working on with the 15 nations. If you're from Egypt and you come onto WikiTree and you see nothing about Egypt anywhere on WikiTree,
Then you might
or if
need
you're from the United States and you've got ancestors in Egypt, there's nothing for you on WikiTree, perhaps. Well, now at least there's a spot you can go to, and you'll see some of the notables that you can look at some Egyptian family trees. You'll see people that you recognize from your culture on there. um, so there will be a lot of things, pretty much anything that we can find across WikiTree. And then again, if somebody's interested in turning it into an actual project, and we've already had people expressing some interest in, I believe, the Bahamas, and I think it's pronounced Mauritania. Um, some of the smaller countries, because that's where they're from, and they've got an interest. And who knows, there may be a dozen other people on WikiTree that are also interested that just don't have any place to go. So,
And this is
so
really,
that's what.
really large. This is a large scale. So I want everybody to take a second and think about where you're from, where your ancestors from. It could even be where you like to vacation. If you go to a
Mhm.
place vacation, something that means, a place that means something to you, or a place that you really want to learn more about and you want to give a commitment to, because that's kind of what we're asking. Because WikiTree is collaborative. It's one tree. And the tree isn't just Europe. It isn't just United States. It isn't just Canada or North America, I should say. It's global. So if you have ideas of which countries you might be interested in helping out with, this is a really cool way to get your feet wet into kind of the workings of WikiTree as well, and develop and build and build and build up this page in this country. And I want to mention that as we get more global and you start creating these wonderful biographies and everything, then we also get really cool status on searches as well.
Mm.
So that also helps. So if you guys have ideas, or you shout out a particular country that you know that you like to vacation at, we're not holding you to any firm contract if you mention it in chat. We're just trying to create the conversation right now, because as David said, this is a lot. David can't do this all on
Yeah,
his own. He will never
yeah.
sleep.
You know, Sandy and I did not talk about this beforehand because I got here late. Um, if I were to put the link in
No,
the chat
yeah,
room
definitely.
and give people a preview, this is a
Yep.
locked profile, but I've just unlocked it. And if anybody wants to head over there,
And
um,
Mary, all those are already on WikiTree. As a
yeah, let
matter
me
of
see.
fact, head over to Portugal as soon as Bingo's over, because they're looking for help. I'm sorry, David, didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. I'm just trying to figure out how to do the cut and paste here. Wait, maybe I didn't cut it.
Let me see, Susan. Let me see if I can get the bingo card up.
Oh, I'm not connected, it says. Okay. Oh, that's right. I'm on StreamYard. I'm not on
bingo card
Google.
number 1. Let's try that. Okay, there's a bingo card. You guys let me know if I got the right one.
Okay, and there's the link to the free space page. And what I would ask people to do is to scroll down to Albania, and you can see the first page that we've created. Now, most of the countries that you see bolded will be countries that are already linked to profiles, but Albania is one that we've set up. Hold on, let me make sure that's unlocked. That's one that we've just created that gives you kind of the template that we're using for each of the subsequent countries that we'll be developing. But as we said, it's not going to be open next week because I have about 150 more countries to go. But hopefully by the end of the year, and if we don't have it completed by the end of the year, we'll open it anyway, and we'll just have some countries that are not yet developed.
I want to point out, David, if you could drop that in the private chat for me, that link, and I'll
Say
bring
that
it
again.
up. Can you drop that link in the private chat? And I will link it.
If I can find the private chat. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Joku. Sorry about that, guys. Got the right one.
There it is.
Okay. Let me bring this up and give you guys the link. Oh, that's a really cool looking page. This is really fantastic. There you go. And we're set, and I will bring it up here for everybody to see.
So the global page itself is going to be very simplistic. It's just going to have a link to each country of the world. We may redo the order a little bit. We're playing around with that.
That's cool. It's a great looking page.
Yeah, the first page is just going to be basically links. A little bit about our project. We may or may not keep those codes. They were more for our use than community, but you can see there in the Caribbean, we've got one country with a page. The rest of those countries don't have pages yet. We do have somebody that, and this is what's interesting. We have somebody that has a Bahamas page that's been up for 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Peter Roberts,
I
right?
never knew about it. I don't know if a lot of people knew about it, but by putting them all here, it'll be one-stop shop. You can go here. Again, your big projects like England and Canada and stuff will be linked here. We're not going to interfere with their projects, but we will link them. Countries that don't have projects currently, we'll create a page for. And again, if somebody then wants to come in and create a project, it'll all be here ready for you to go. And
Albania,
we'll let you and your team. So Albania is the one that I just created. So that's the one I'd like people to take a look at, because that shows you what we're going to be doing with the stationary pages.
This is like your super enhanced space page.
This is not an active project. It's just the stationary page that we've completed. And again, if somebody wants to create a Albania project, we can hand this over to you, and you can work with your team on, building it into some activities. We start with our missions and goals. We don't have a management team yet here. We got a map of the different subregions of Albania.
This is an awesome map. This page is so beautiful. It's well done. And this should be very similar to everybody. The bio builders, the sorcerers, the data the notables. Every country is kind of going to have the same needs. We need profiles. We need nice profiles with sources, with correct information, with bios. And all that
so we talk a little bit about the geography. This is WikiTree or Wikipedia links to each of the counties in Albania. So if you know where your family's from in Albania, you can find their county here. This is minimal information on their history, but it gives you an idea. The timeline basically gives you kind of what the country was named during different periods. If your grandparents were born there in 1900, it wasn't considered Albania then, it was the Ottoman Empire. So when did it become Albania? 1913. So it's a real quick kind of cheat sheet almost to figure that out.
And people are mentioning the key. David said, don't pay too much attention to the key, right? The U's and the things like that, because that might
Yeah,
change.
we set that up more for ourselves. We may take that out. It tells us which pages are already being managed, which ones aren't, etc.
But
Based
this,
on the
it's
ethnicities, the language, the religion. We'll have something on the naming constructs. I didn't mention that, but some countries have some pretty unusual, from a Western standpoint, naming constructs. Oh, and here we're working on the photos, but we'll have the current heads of state, the current president and prime minister.
sorry about that. I just
And
switched off your
okay,
page. Sorry.
okay, no problem. Yeah, we'll have the current president and prime minister that you can link to. If you guys want to get them connected, that would be great. You'll see that most current living leaders are not connected.
But this is very similar if you attended the bingo prior to this, the 15 Nation tours, or if you participated in the 15 Nations tour. The start of this feels very similar and very much the same. So now you know why David and I kind of grouped this bingos together so we could talk about the 15 Nations tour, talk a little bit about the WikiTree games that are coming up, but also talk about this launch of WikiTree truly becoming global. I guess before the thought is let's get our background and our dirt per se. Let's get that strong and then start planting trees. And we're planting these trees now by going globally. I'm thrilled with this. This is so exciting that we are going to become more and more global. We're going to get more different individuals and cultures to talk to in WikiTree, but also if you're researching, bringing in more cultures and more people in those locations around the world, it just helps everybody. And they can ask us questions. A lot of people came to the United States or Canada or Europe, and it just creates this fabulous genealogical community for free. This is just amazing. This,
Yes.
it's just amazing.
Yeah, and I'm the kind of person, not just with WikiTree, but in life in general, I get kind of tired of being told it's coming soon.
Yeah.
Hold on, it'll be here. I'm more the type that prefers to go all out, just get everything up there, and then we'll let people decide what they want to use and don't use. So if nobody ever looks at the Albania page, or 5 years later, somebody wants to come along and fix it up, it'll be there waiting for them. In the meantime, it doesn't require active management or anything, so it can sit here as long as it needs to. But
This
when
is
somebody does want it, it's going to be here.
This is amazing how much work you put into this. I mean, I'm fascinated by these photos and by these people, and I want to know more about them. So I cannot wait for people to jump in. People that are already on WikiTree, new WikiTreers, I just cannot wait for people to jump
Yeah.
in. So it'll be
Part
now.
of the
Here's the big problem, though, is
go.
how do we name these people? And
How do we
that's
name them?
yeah. So will there be instructions on how to input the names in the data
Yeah.
fields?
So if you previously, as before you were scrolling down, there was a section called
The naming.
naming conventions, and that's where we'll put in if there are some right there. It's very small here, but it talks about So I can read this. In Albania, the complete name usually consists of a given name, the given name of the individual's father, which is seldom included except in official documents, and a family name or surname, most commonly patrilineal. They are invariably given in the Western name order or given name followed by family name. So if you're working on Albanian, that'll become clear pretty quickly to you. And once you figure it out, then all the other Albanians will fall into place. And I know that because that's what we do with our 15 Nations tour. We look at a name and we are completely dumbfounded. But once we figure out the patterns and stuff, oh, that's not so difficult after all. And because they generally follow the same pattern for all Albanians, or most Albanians will follow the same pattern. It becomes pretty simple. You move over to the country next door, and it's all turned around and backwards. But as long as you stay in Albania,
Then
you'll be fine.
Now, Joku has a question. Are there any plans to add some of the things that are on these pages, timeline, notables, etc., to existing projects that don't have these things? And if they are a full-fledged project, on WikiTree with a project number, that's kind of up to the project themselves.
It'll be up to the project themselves. So we will offer our services and guidance to anybody that wants it. Some of the smaller ones, and there are a couple national projects out there that I imagine most people have not even heard about, including myself. But there have a couple that have asked if they can, if we can help them out in creating, fixing up their web pages. So they will follow our patterns. Some of the bigger ones, like, and we haven't spoken to any of them, so I'm not speaking for them. But say Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, that have their their full blown projects going, may not want to make a number of changes, and that's fine. But they're welcome to if they would like to. That's and they can pick and choose if they see something they like. But we're not going to impose anything on anybody else.
And
If somebody's already got a project going, again, we'll provide a link to their project. But other than that, it's up to them.
And this is exactly why. This is one of the major reasons why the timeline is cool, but the boundary changes. And for those of you that were here when we had the Poland project on Bingo 2 weeks ago, 3 or maybe 4 weeks ago, as Maggie, one of the project leaders, said for the Poland project, Poland wasn't even Poland, known as Poland for a couple years. So that's why the projects that you see now existing in the countries, they are already fleshed out and filled out and ready the way that their project wants them to be. For these that have not started yet, and let's say that I wanted to pick up Moldova and I didn't know where to start, I wouldn't know what should be on the page, what shouldn't be on the page. That's where David with this project would come in and say, Sandy, here's kind of a template that you can use, and let's start with that. So that's kind of what we're talking about.
These pages are going to be very rudimentary. I'm certainly not an expert on every one of these countries, so I may get some things wrong. But because I'm aware that I don't know everything, I keep it pretty basic what I put on there. So I don't get into areas that, or if I start to read something, it's like, this doesn't make sense to me. Well, I'm just not going to go there. I'll put up something basic, and when somebody comes along and wants to create an actual project, you can fix up whatever needs to be fixed up. You can add things, you can take off things. If the timeline is too simplistic or at least something out, go ahead and fix that. This is up to the, just as if you went to an individual profile and you said, well, this doesn't tell the whole story. Well, then go in there and tell the rest of the story, or this information is incorrect. Okay, well, we got procedures for correcting it. So
we want
just as
you
with,
to. Yeah, we
yeah,
want
we
you
want
to
you to. That's
embrace
what
this.
we're encouraging people to take over. Don't feel like, well, well, David's already got all these countries covered, so I guess we don't need to step in, because no, that's not the case. This is really a way to try to encourage other people to come in and pick up on areas that they're interested, because I know there's a lot of people that would love to do stuff like this. They just don't know where to get started, or to start with a blank page is overwhelming. So
It is
there's a lot of
sometimes,
reasons
yeah.
that we're doing this, but that's a big part of it.
I see a place for Alesh too. We'll have to get him
Yeah.
involved.
I was also going to say earlier, we were talking, I said this is going to take me till January. Part of the reason for that is every time I start to research a country, and you were talking about the different notables, they are so fascinating.
They
What
are.
should take me a few hours winds up taking a couple days, because I'm reading all these biographies and
And they're fascinating. They
learning
have
about
their
this.
photos. They are.
Yeah, when I'm doing early Albanian history, I didn't know anything about this stuff, and it's fascinating. Um,
And
and
this is a good example. So everything you see here in the United Kingdom, David didn't touch. David didn't create. David didn't modify. Didn't do anything.
yeah,
Only thing he did is say,
just a
"Hey,
link.
you're already existing. Here's the link." So we can keep all the countries just linked on one page. So there's
So if you
not,
come
you're
there,
not
and
creating a duplicate space page for England or
no,
Scotland per
no,
se.
I'm just providing links, and that way, and that's why I did these codes, the T and the S. It tells us that we may not leave that there, but that tells us that somebody else is already working on these pages. But also this way, if you come there, we don't want to leave off those pages, because if you come to this page, we want you to have every country to choose from, and not have to go somewhere else to find a country that you're looking for. So
And this is great.
that's why
Did
we
Emma work on a lot of these, like Northern Africa? I mean,
So Emma does Africa, and she has pages. I have not been in touch with Emma on this topic. What I need to ask her is she's got these pages kind of under development. So whether she wants to continue developing those or wants us to help out, we haven't discussed that yet. So we'll see.
so have we enticed anybody? Is anybody thinking, looking at some of these countries and thinking, I think I might want to work on something? I love Nancy's comment. I should just pick a country at random. If you're a history buff and you really love, like David said with Albania, it's just really
Yeah,
cool and
I
awesome.
picked Albania because it was at the top of the list alphabetically, and I had to start somewhere. And again, it was fascinating. It's like I never would have thought to read up on anything about Albania, but
And it amazed me. I'm looking at the Middle East. There's so much rich culture here, and I'm looking that these don't have pages yet. And I'm just surprised. But at the same time, I'm thrilled because I know that they will. I know that we'll get wikitreers, either existing new wikitreers come in and just embrace the country page.
yeah. Now, would you like to see another interesting country?
Yes. Which
Um,
one?
why don't we go to Andorra, which is the second one I worked on. So
Andorra.
that's down, and we may change this order around. This is more for my use, but if you go to Europe,
There
and
we
it's
go.
under microstates right there, under microstates. So there's another little interesting country. Andorra is a tiny, tiny country. I don't know how many Andorrans we have on WikiTree.
But we can get them.
Interestingly, they
We'll
divide the
invite them.
country into a number of even smaller entities.
I know, but the pages are beautiful. They're really colorful. They really show that, like, this map shows the different
I
territories and
love
sections.
I love the maps with the flag imprinted over it up at the very top there,
Yeah.
each country, and those are all available on Wiki Commons. So if we go down to some of our notables here, it's an interesting history.
I
So
mean,
let
look
me
at
tell
the
you that. So
Parliament.
Andorra has 78,000 people, I think, right now is their population. In 1900, their population was 5,000. They were a tiny, tiny country.
This is amazing. And it, again, I always say, if you're a history buff, this is fantastic to get into.
Yeah. Now, for those that don't know, Andorra is in between France and Spain, and they don't have their own leader. They have like a Congress, but they have two princes, the president of France and the um, the Bishop of Urgell, I think it's pronounced Urgell. And that goes back to medieval times when um, the King of France and the Bishop of Urgell split the country, and the King of France has now been replaced by the President of France. But they have two co-heads of state that are both from one from Spain and one from France. Um, this individual here um, pretended to be a Russian aristocrat, I think Russian, but an aristocrat, came in and declared himself king of Andorra and brought some papers that made it official, which were forged. And for a short time, he served as king of Andorra because he tricked the Andorran people into thinking that
He was king.
had officially been proclaimed king.
And he's a
He
pretender.
was,
This is the type of
yeah,
things, though, that we
yeah,
learn as you step out of your own little area of knowledge base, or if you step into a new country. Think of this as travel, history travel, as you go
yeah.
through. And does everybody have their bingo cards? Stephen, you got me set. And I agree with uh, Mary. This is going to be really invaluable and useful for DNA, and I would love to see those African nations kind of built out as well. That's the first thing I thought of when we were talking about DNA.
And you know what? I'm willing to bet. We talked about being on moving up the ladder on Google. I would imagine that down the road, once we get this up, if you Google Andorran genealogy, WikiTree is going to come up at the top because you're not going to find a lot of other
That's
sites.
a good
And
point.
I would say that for 150 of our countries probably.
That's a good
Um,
point.
if you Google Swedish genealogy, you're going to get all kinds of hits. Um, German genealogy, etc. If you ever try to buy a book on your culture, if you're Swedish, German, English, you're fine. If you're Luxembourgian, if you're any African, Asian, South American country, you're probably going to be out of luck.
That's a good point, and we will get higher hits.
So
So
WikiTree will be the place to go if you're looking for global genealogy.
I love this. Now everybody knows that I stay in my own little section most of the time, but I love to. I call it mental traveler. I think that's what they call it when you go and you explore. And I do want to recommend somebody to take the next step with this for you. So when we go to Mars and moons, we're going to let Stephen take this over. And the other Stephen who likes Star Wars and Star Trek Web and Chris Variello. So that we've got
we're on our 15th anniversary, but for our 25th anniversary, I wouldn't be surprised if we've got to come up with a new moon page, if not a Mars page.
That would be cool. Okay, guys, bingo. So horizontal, diagonal, vertical. Click on the little spot, as we call the name. We'll go through this pretty quick. This one's pretty easy to go through. These bingos is not a free space on this. I don't think on the other one either. And the first person who yells bingo at me is the winner. If you won in the past 6 months, you cannot win again. So genie.com, why is this?
So before we go into the specifics, this card is based a lot on our 15 Nations Global Tour. And the reason it is because a lot of the tools that we use in the 15 Nations Global Tour are going to be used on our global project. So if you're going to be doing international research in countries that don't have real solid resources available, this is what this card is going to be a little bit more focused on. So genie.com is another website that should be .com as opposed to .com, genie.com. And they're a family tree website. People go on there and they post their family trees. The thing that I've discovered about it, I'm only recently discovering this, there's a real strong positive and a real strong negative here. The thing that's really positive about it, a vast number of our obscure notables on the 15 Nations Tour have family trees posted on genie.com. Our Egyptian notables, our Haitian notables, they have very detailed trees. The thing is, genie.com does not ask people to put sources. So we've got elaborate family trees that have very limited value to us because they have no sources telling us where people got the information. However, they do post contact information for the people that have put the information on that host the trees. And we've had a really good success rate of people getting back to us and telling us where they got their sources, and even people who have come and joined WikiTree in order to put their trees on WikiTree.
On there. Well, that's a good part, but I will caution everybody, look at your project reliable sources page. Almost every project has it, and they do not recommend Genie. I will double check. I do not believe
Genie,
you can use it.
Genie has a lot of problems.
On.
Yeah, they just don't do sourcings. Yeah. You have no idea where the information came. But for this type of information, or if you've got a family tree where you're struggling with, it's a way to contact people that might have information. We do not use the trees blindly, though. Just like Ancestry or any of the others. You don't use an orange source family tree from online. No. But it's a good place to get some clues and to make some contacts. Kenya, so these are just countries that we visited. Kenya was one that we visited. We visited Haiti. Haiti was a little bit easier than Kenya because a lot of Haitians have come to the United States and made contacts. Malaysia, we did surprisingly well with. The language is different. The alphabet is not in Roman or Latin letters, so that was a challenge. But a lot of the Malaysians have histories that are written. Cameroon, an African country, a lot of French connections. So once we were able to make those connections to France, we were able to make some breaks. Ukraine was the most difficult of the countries we've been to, not because of the war, because things are online, but because they used to be a Soviet country. And the Soviets kept everything private. They did not publish family histories of their notables, etc. You were notable for your accomplishments, not for who your family was, etc. So it was very difficult to make. I think we only made one connection in Ukraine,
Oh,
and
wow.
I think that was an individual who lived prior to the Soviet takeover. Um, so bio writing, we talked about this a little bit back. We have a lot of different things that we need people to do. So if you're not interested in researching Kenyan genealogy or that overwhelms you, we'll get some information up and you can write the bio. A lot of our guys are really into making those connections. They're not so fond of going back and writing the stories. So if you're good at bio writing, we can really use your help. We get a lot of with all of the notables, we get the bios up there and they get them connected, and there's no story to go along with them.
And that's kind
So
of
if you're
sad
a
because you
bio,
see the beautiful pictures, you see their
mhm,
portraits, and you see their sources. You want to know about them. You really do.
yeah, yeah. Estonia was one of the countries we just recently went to. We're in Syria right now, and Estonia was the previous country, and we did really well in Estonia. Estonia was also a Soviet country, but they kept a lot of independence. So it was different than Ukraine. You'd think some of these countries would be very similar in their proximity in that, but Estonia was much easier than Ukraine. Connections, that's the big thing that
Yeah.
everybody goes for is, are they connected? And I love making connections, but um, I wish people would go back and finish the profiles once they made the connections instead of connecting and going. You'll see some really big, not just with the global tours and that, but with the notables. You know, we got Milton Berle up there right now. Zero information about him.
Oh,
Um,
really?
you know, yeah.
Oh, no.
He's not connected. He's you know, he's just kind of sitting out there by himself. And so
Hint, hint.
I
Anybody watching?
yeah, I run into that all the time. These really big names, and nothing about them. Egypt was an interesting one. We found, I think it was 4 of our 15 Egyptians died falling out of hotel windows. That seems to be a thing in Egypt, um, especially if you're involved with the government.
Oh, my.
If you are involved with the government and you get invited to a meeting on the 10th floor, don't go. Um, that's they actually have a name for it, and I couldn't tell you what it is, but there's a name for falling out of a hotel window in Egypt. Um, it's just a thing that happens. Three. Three is the number of countries we have left. That actually should be four because we have a country coming up. We're on 12. No, I'm sorry, it is three. With Syria right now, we have Syria's number 12, so we have three more countries left to go after Syria.
And no matter how much we bribe him with biscuits, he will not tell us what the three are.
I will not tell you what
You're
it
not,
is.
but I will tell you, you've got three more countries to visit for the 15 nation tour. So if you're interested and if you're intrigued and maybe helping out with one of these global countries, join the 15 nation tour. You've got three countries left. Join it. Very mentoring, very fun, very interesting. You will be fascinated by the
It's
people
zero
you'll learn about.
experience. It's a surprise to everyone. My members that have been with me from the very beginning, which was January 2nd, have no idea where we're going next week. They don't know anything about the notables. We all go in blindly together, so you'll be right on the same level as the rest of us. And if you feel overwhelmed with doing the research, you can do some proofreading. You can help us find photos. You can help format our sources,
Always
bio
some.
writing. There's all kinds of stuff that needs to be done. But again, you need no experience, and we've got three more countries. That's 12 weeks. Um, well, we've got 2 weeks left for this one, and then 9 weeks for those three countries, and then so it's still a lot of time to jump in.
And you don't need to know the
Argentina was
language either. You could
you
just
don't need
jump
to know
on
the
it.
language. Nope. We don't know the language. You don't need to know the language. Argentina. Argentina was interesting. Speaking of knowing the language, we had about 4 or 5 members from Argentina join in. That's the only country that I've had large scale participation from the country itself. And they were able to show us how to access Argentina records and
That's cool.
their archives. And from that, by learning how to find Argentina's archives, I learned how to find the archives for our other countries. So that was a really helpful experience for me. Sourcing again, um, we need sourcing done, formatting our sources. Here's another thing with the research, and we talked about this in our earlier bingo. We start out, for example, I had a king of Malaysia, and he married an English woman. They divorced. He went to school in England as a kid, as a college student. Married a young English girl. She did not want to move back to Malaysia, so they divorced, and she married a man from Oklahoma. So we wound up doing most of our research on this Malaysian king in Oklahoma.
That's
So
that's
you think you don't know
amazing.
Malaysia? That's fine. We need help in Oklahoma. So, and
That's
that happens time and
amazing.
time again.
And you're
And
talking
I
about a
often wonder if
king.
this, yeah, I often wonder if this family in Oklahoma has any idea they're related to the King of Malaysia. But
That would be, I bet
yeah,
they don't.
so you never know where you're going to end up. Um, we had one of the first president of Panama. When he was thrown out of office, his wife went into exile in France and later moved to North Carolina. And so his family's all in North Carolina. That's where we wound up doing all of our research. And that was in one generation. That was his wife. That wasn't even, you know, generations down the road. That was
That was
first
right his
generation.
wife,
We're in North
directly
Carolina.
on. And I wanted to say congrats to Chris for winning bingo. And this is really kind of a fun story, too. I literally just emailed with Chris not long ago. I want to say about an hour or two, not even two ago,
Mhm.
talking about WikiTree games and talking about bingo. So, congratulations, Chris. This is an awesome win for you. And contact Awen, and she will let you know how to win your prize. It's up to $30 on a WikiTree branded. I didn't show everybody really the mug last time like I normally do, but I do need to tell you that the limited edition 15th anniversary t-shirts are also on the store that you can get from your prize win at bingo. I've dropped the next card in the chat as well. So, David, how long do you think this will take to build out? This is not going to be a month, it'll be done. This is not going to probably even be 6 months. It's going to go at its, I guess, natural pace.
Yeah. It all depends on the circumstances of life. Um, if if I get helpers, it'll go faster. If not, I take it step by step. I don't have a problem opening it up in January if it's only half done, and we just let people know that it's a work in progress. I work on it when I can. Sometimes when it's 110 degrees outside, I've got lots of time to do it. When the weather cools down for a day, I may not. I may be out running errands. I've got a number of other projects, as you mentioned, that I'm working on. Unfortunately, they all seem to come due on the same day, so that we
That
tend to
does
schedule things for
happen.
the
Yep.
first of the month. So, um, and usually it's not the first of the month when I post it that everything is crazy or up to then. It's the days afterwards when everybody's asking questions and um, so it just depends. And like I said, I think, oh, I can do this in an afternoon, and then I get on those, just like the rabbit holes we do and everything else.
Yeah.
Um, I start to read about these notables and
And they're
about the history,
fascinating.
and I don't want to go on to the next country until I'm satisfied. So, but I hope to have it up. Well, it will be open on January 1st. Um,
So,
Hopefully,
anybody have
we'll have.
plans for New Year's Day? Have we enticed anybody to kind of look at a country, or at least kind of see, do we have ancestors, some of your ancestors out there that you're looking at maybe a country to help them out as well? I think that's going to be where the natural organic growth is. Those that have the ancestors in some of these countries will start to kind of build out and contact you as well. And like you said, if we can get the countries, and if you want to work on a country, like let me say I want to work on a particular country, and I just want to add a couple notables because that's what I feel comfortable with because I know that all the information is probably there. Uh, at that point, can I say, okay, I've worked the notables, a lot of notables. Can I give that page back to you to kind of manage for the next person to come in that wants to take it over?
Yeah, and I also want to emphasize this is not a notables project. We use the notables to entice people to come over,
Mhm.
um, but you don't have to come on and work on notables. You can work on your own family. You can work on. We're also working. We have some people that keep track of unconnected families,
Hmm.
and we're going to put those links up there. So we'll have the largest unconnected families
Wow.
from, say, Luxembourg, that are on WikiTree, and you can connect them. But you can work on your own family. And what I see it um, where I see it attracting people is my family's from Luxembourg. I don't know anyone else from Luxembourg. Can we get a group together where we can share notes and we can help each other out with our own family trees? Again, we've got a handful of countries that are always covered by every genealogy site, and you
Yeah.
find the books in the bookstore, et cetera. But there's a lot of countries around the world that just
The
don't get
attention.
connected.
I love
Um,
that idea, though.
and so if I've got family um, from a country that first off isn't European, because that's just about every country that's not European, you're going to have some struggles with. But even within Europe, smaller countries, Eastern European countries, you'll get even say the Nordic states, you'll find books on Scandinavian genealogy, but they throw all four countries in together as if they're
Yeah.
one. Um, you're not going to find a book on Danish genealogy. You're going to have to buy a book on Swedish, Norwegian, and Danish genealogy to
Technology to
to
bring
get
it.
that. So it's just a way to create with your smaller groups of members. They're out there. Um,
And
you
bring
know,
more
um,
members in to WikiTree because, like I said, I don't know how many of you have gone to G2G from a profile, an ancestor profile, saying, "Help! Can you translate this document, or can you help me break this brick wall down?" And this would give you global options. The more people that we bring in. Let me go ahead and bring up the bingo card. Same thing, guys. If you've won in the past 6 months, you can't win this time. You got to wait till your 6 month anniversary. Vertical, horizontal, diagonally. Hit the mouse, click the mouse, and we'll go through this one pretty quick. And if you guys have
okay,
any
so this
questions,
so,
let us
so
know.
this is a little different. This
Mhm.
card is going to be focused more on the global project, and we're going to talk about some of the different regions of the world. That's what this card is about. So Western Africa is where a lot of African Americans will have their roots. That's where the slave trade was the biggest. So there's I had a list of the countries here, but Turkey. The reason I put Turkey here, Turkey is one of the anomalies. It is an Asian country by the majority of it is in Asia. It spreads into Europe a little bit, but it is part of NATO. It is part of the European Union. So it kind of fits both the Europe and the um,
That's
Asian
interesting. It does.
criteria there. The Slavic nations. That's basically what we would refer to as Eastern Europe. If you look at the list of
Mhm.
Slavic nations, there's a dozen or so of them, but it's basically what was communist Eastern Europe. Um, Polynesia. So we talk
Tahiti,
about
anybody?
yeah, we talk about the um, um, the Pacific Islands,
Mhm.
Australia, New Zealand. Often they call it Oceania, um, but there's actually three sets of islands um, in the South, not South Pacific, well, South Pacific, but Polynesia is one of the groups of islands. Um, South America, we all know where that is.
Mhm.
Now, South America and Mexico, this ties right in. Mexico is North America, but when we're grouping countries, Mexico is much more is what we would consider Latin America, even though it is part of the North American continent. So trying to figure out how to divide these up, um, there's very different culture between Canada and United States and Mexico. So to bulk them together as opposed to putting Mexico with its southern neighbors, the continents don't always aren't necessarily the best way to divide things
Divided
up.
up.
So that's one of the things we're kind of playing with. Northern Africa is the desert portion of Africa. So it goes from Egypt on over to Sudan, and you got Libya up there, all those desert countries that are along the Mediterranean. Um, South Asia. So South Asia would be, now I've got to check this one out because I believe South Asia is what we would consider India, that section.
And India was on the 15 nation tour,
India
right?
was on the 15 nation tour, yes. Now the United Kingdom is another interesting one because it's most of the resources consider it North Europe as opposed to Western Europe, so it's up there with Scandinavia. It combines really 4 countries: Scotland, England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. They're very independent in their own ways. They've got very different histories, and yet they're all united right now as a single kingdom. So gives us a little bit of a thing. Central Asia. Do you know where Central Asia is? Can you name any countries from Central Asia? This is a hard one, or unless somebody's really good at
Mongolia?
genealogy. Anybody got an answer? What'd you say?
Mongolia?
You're really pretty close. It's the stands.
Oh, okay.
It's not Afghanistan, but Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, all of those
That's a great way to
countries.
remember it, the stands.
The stands. Now you got Afghanistan and Pakistan that are a little bit on the border there, but those are all the stand countries that we don't learn a lot about those in the U.S. at least. Central America, very similar to South America in a lot of ways, but also has its own history. A lot of smaller countries there. So the Nordic nations, this is one that always kind of intrigues me, that they're always lumped together in genealogical books and resources. You've got Nordic, which I believe is different than Scandinavian, and I'm just learning about this, but
I
Nordic
do think
being
we
the
have a Swedish, I don't know if Eric is still in the chat. He is our Swedish, Finnish, Nordic researcher that I always reach out to when I try to find out. So that's a good question. Scandinavian and Nordic.
Yeah. I just heard something earlier that they're not the same definition, so I have to look that up. But you've got Finland, which was more Eastern Russian. You've got Scandinavia, and I'm sorry, Sweden and Norway, which have shared some history. You've got Denmark down below, and then you've got Iceland all the way off in the sea, that are all kind of lumped together, but they're very different in their histories. The micronations. So these European micronations are these tiny ones like Andorra that has 70 plus thousand people. You've got Vatican City. You've got Monaco, Liechtenstein. Um, if there's, I believe, 6 countries in Europe that are considered micronations. There's a few other across the world, and mostly island nations in the Pacific. Other places, but they're tiny nations, but they've got some rich histories. Melanesia, I mentioned Polynesia. Melanesia is another set of islands in the Pacific. So Eastern Africa, we were there. We went to Kenya there. Eastern Africa has much closer ties to the Middle East, as well as some European countries.
Okay, we got Susan, who is one bingo. Okay, we got a little confused. Mike did not win bingo this time. Susan won bingo. I think okay. So Mike thought that Mark or Joku won. Okay, so Susan, you are the true winner of bingo. Okay, so Susan, congratulations. We got bingo. That was confusing a bit. Okay, sorry guys, we got it straight. Let me go ahead and get you the information. You're going to email Eowyn, and she's going to give you the information. And I will also drop that. I think I have that here. If anybody's curious what these prizes are and what people are choosing from, it's the WikiTree store. And there it is. So, Susan, if you want to take a sneak peek, you can take a sneak peek as well. And don't forget the 15th anniversary t-shirts are there as well. So congratulations, Susan, on the win. David, what should we know? What's our next steps?
Okay, so between now and January, if anybody wants to jump in. So our pages, I showed you Andorra and we showed you what was the first one? Albania. Um, those are templates. So we can cut and paste those onto a blank free space page and then insert all the information for the next country. That makes it easier. The more pages I do, the easier it gets. As long as, again, I don't stop to read my history and my biographies and slow myself down. But if anybody wants to come in and help out, if that's something that people would like to do, that's fine. There's no commitment. If you come in and do one and that's it, or if you want to do one every couple weeks, in and out, it's fine. Anything that people want to do is great, and if not, that's okay too. We'll get it done. But in the meantime, also, if you are interested in setting up and taking over one of the projects, we can get you in place before January 1st. So we can get you onto the page, get you some ideas. So what would a project entail? It would be number one, just a place to go and chat with people that have similar interest. If you want to do a G2G challenge or just a post that says, hey, share your stories or whatever. It doesn't have to be, a notables related. We talk a lot about that because notables are what get people interested. If I said, can you come help us with Elvis Presley's profile? I'm going to get 100 people. If I said, can you help me with my grandmother's profile? I'm not going to get many hits. So they're both equally important, but to stir up interest, that's why we use the notables. And that's both on
But that's a
WikiTree and
good
if we're going
point.
into social media, et cetera. We do get a lot of people say, why can't we just do normal everyday people? And it's like, because nobody signs up when we do that. Yeah, these are not about connecting notables. If you want to connect notables, then that's where your focus, have fun and come do that. But it's really about whatever you want to make it. So if you are from Algeria and you want to come in and sign up to meet other people from Algeria, we may or may not have others that want to join. That's, we just have to wait and see. In the meantime, you can share resources, you can, whatever you want it to be, it's your project. And we're here to help and guide you, but we'll leave it up to you as we do the managers of all our other projects. It's up to you to figure out what direction you want to take it. And if you just want to come in and sign up and wait to see what other people do, that's fine too. But you don't have to wait to January 1st to let us know, and we'll get you started on that.
So it's kind of
But we're
cool
gonna,
because everybody's getting a sneak peek. So if you're looking
yeah,
at this now and there's, I don't know, maybe there's a country that will be very, very popular, you're getting a sneak peek and you're getting an opportunity to jump in on this. And all you got to do is just reach out to David if you find something that you want to participate with.
yeah. And if you've got a branch of your ancestry that it just isn't one of
Mhm.
those countries that are covered by other sources, again, African, Asians, Latin American, or one of the many smaller countries in Europe that gets overlooked, um, you know, this is the place to, we'll see where it goes. We've never done anything like this, so we don't make any promises, but I think, if the information's there, it'll take care of itself over time.
I think so. We're all in this together. We're all in this, just as we are now, asking for help or asking to connect or to source or to bio or to join a project, even just a project. We're all in this together. So let's grow it. Let's grow this tree. Let's make it a global project completely all the way around. And that's what we kind of showed with the globe at the beginning. David, thank you so much for joining me for both bingos. I took a lot of your day out from doing the
Oh no,
work that you
I
need to
enjoy
do,
it.
but I appreciate it. I think the only thing that we need to mention left is that the WikiTree games are coming up. If you've already registered, I do believe the registration is closed, but if you want to sneak in, you can always try contacting Eowyn. That would be my guess. Eowyn at wikitree.com and see if you can sneak in. For those of you that are doing the WikiTree games, this is brand new as well. This is something that we're going to start off with, and it's like 3 days. It's a mini connectathon, a mini sourceathon, and then you'll be randomly put with anybody that signed up. So you're not going to be in your particular thon team that you're used to. This, you'll get a name, a team name that matches the name of a tree, and you will be randomly put into that group. And that third day, David and I and a few others spent a very, very long Saturday a couple months ago creating Olympic profiles, Olympian profiles, I should say. You're going to get assigned Olympians, and your team does what you want with them. So it's kind of similar to what we're talking about with the global. This is kind of a way to just kind of dive in and see what it's like working in different countries and working with people, WikiTreers from different companies. I am excited. This is going to be a really interesting, fun time that weekend. And anytime you have like a little connect-a-thon or a little source-a-thon, I'm always in. Those are fun too. Well,
And if you're interested in sports notables,
that's
we will
true.
having a big announcement at the end of the WikiTree games about a sports project that's coming up, and we'll be announcing that at the closing ceremonies.
And
So,
that will be really exciting. So you don't want,
yeah.
and I need to point out with the WikiTree games, for those, again, that are signed up, there will be hangouts like at the Thon. It'll be the same every 4 hours. I do want to let everybody know you will not have a tracker. You will not know. Let me rephrase that. You will have a tracker for the source-a-thon. You will not have a score sheet. So no one will know their score at all throughout the weekend. And guess what? Those of us that are hosting on the Hangouts, we won't know either. So it'll be really, really fun. And you'll know that at the closing ceremonies, as David just mentioned, for another big announcement coming up for the sports notables. So pretty cool times coming up on WikiTree. Everybody's back to school, kids back to school. Hopefully the heat will die down a little bit and we'll settle into WikiTree for the fall. And I think that's about it. David, do you have anything else?
No, thank you everybody for joining us, and I enjoyed it.
And definitely thank you. I appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with us for bingo. And if you're watching this after the fact, I really appreciate that you came after the fact. So if you're here live or if you're here after the fact, please click the like button. That really helps WikiTree out. And we will see you.
Let me say one quick thing. We do not have a G2G post about the global project, and we don't have a free space page up yet. So if you want to, if you have any questions or concerns, contact me directly. Just send me an email, and I can help you out, because we don't really have a public place to put those requests at this point.
Sounds good. Everybody have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.